I was interested really in something that seemed to me, on the one hand, a bleedingly obvious subject for investigative journalism, but one that hadn't been done, and that is Australian companies are the most numerous Western mining companies in Africa. And yet, unlike the constant reporting we hear on Chinese companies and even Canadian companies, there was a complete lack of any deep analysis of what these Australian companies were up to. My name's Will Fitzgibbon and I'm a reporter with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists.
I'm Eleanor Bell. I'm the multimedia editor at the Centre for Public Integrity, and we were fortunate enough through funding provided by the Pulitzer Centre for Crisis Reporting to travel to Africa.
We started off in South Africa and then more or less made our way up via many long flights and stopovers to Malawi, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Mali.
We found a lot of allegations surrounding these mines. There were issues of environmental degradation, horrific human rights abuses in some cases. We found workers who had suffered injuries as a course of their employment with the mine, or more commonly as subcontractors working with the mine companies themselves. I was really surprised actually by the 380 deaths that have been associated with Australian mining companies in some form or another.
Mining companies are often very powerful, wealthy and influential companies. And so what we were doing in Africa really was giving the other side of the equation a chance to speak.
That's why we chose in part to do a video segment alongside Will's fabulous reportage, so that you would hear the voices and see the faces of these people affected.
We were basically going into people's lives and homes for whom speaking publicly about their experiences, their working conditions, could be potentially very problematic. So there was, in Malawi, in South Africa, a certain reticence, understandable reticence among certain employees to speak with us. Because once we go home back to America, these people still have to live next to the mine, they might lose their job.
They're incredibly brave to speak to us, and we're very clear about the fact that this will be seen by their company and there could be these repercussions, but they still speak out because they feel that their voices aren't being heard anywhere else. There were a number of challenges in producing these stories. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, we were brought in by the local intelligence agency. We were both interrogated. We were assigned a minder for the remainder of our trip there, which meant that we had to conduct our interviews in secret.
The fatal extraction investigation, in many ways, for me, is the tip of an iceberg of a much larger problem. That is, we chose to identify something, fatalities, that is measurable and is shocking in its human toll. But if you like, I conceive of those deaths that we found and those injuries that we found really as just perhaps the most visible example of the negative impacts of mining that we heard people across Africa telling us. And yes, it's hard for journalists to go there and to prove this and to gather these stories, but it needs to be told so that both the Australian government, which as the home government of these companies has a certain responsibility to know what its companies are doing overseas, but also so that local governments throughout Africa can be aware of what's happening in their own backyard.